our world, Western civilization, logical mind, linear mind, left side of the brain type of individual, we learn our lessons not by knowing the thing itself. That's not how we learn. That's not the predisposition how most people walk into this dimension, this world, trying to learn. They walk into this world with contracts of asking to learn, not from learning what is. No. They know they don't learn those lessons so quickly. They know historically they're partial to learning their lessons from without. Scientists still don't know what gravity is. They can tell you everything it's not. And they learn how gravity works because they discover everything that gravity does by realizing the consequence of what happens, the effects that gravity causes. They do not understand gravity. They know gravity because they measure everything that gravity is not and how it switches. The scientific method is the standard rubric of the way the human mind is designed to operate, to deduct. To deduct not from the understanding the thing itself, but by measuring everything you understand and comprehend, and one by one knocking off the options until you zero in on what a thing is. That is called learning from without. You're not learning the thing itself. You're learning everything the thing is not. And by knowing everything the thing is not, you're discovering what is. And so what the tree of knowledge of is and isn't imparted was entering into a consciousness whereby we discover what is by analyzing everything that it is not. And in describing everything that it is not, we return to the oneness that is the tree of life, of all things. We discover what is. But the process of discovering everything something is not is a long, difficult, struggling process called evolution. And it's a school of hard knocks. We say about the blind man can learn the path in one of two ways. He can either smack into enough walls until he learns the path. It's very painful. It takes a long time. Or the blind man can refine his other senses. Take a stick, start tapping it, and discover the path. Because it's apparent, it's transparent to him. Even though he can't see. One path, one way, is much less painful, it's much shorter. Both paths end up in the exact same space. When an individual is in a polarity state, in a state of judgment, where they're refracting all of existence, and they're only accepting what is that resonates naturally to them, then they are broadcasting, in actuality, a resonance that everything else should not exist, because it doesn't exist within me. So when I broadcast, I say, this is not worthy, that is not worthy, that is not worthy, and I'm broadcasting walls, shells, encasings, callousness over the thing from receiving vitality of the light of life. That's not helpful. What happens is that measure for measure, as the individual resonates these judgments within, when they broadcast their song, and they are passively co-creating if they are broadcasting their song in judgment. They are pairing with some really baser energies in their broadcast. Then nature is designed to congeal, to open and form pathways, networks, for them to advance according to their resonance, according to what they broadcast. And if they're broadcasting oppression, which is the oppression of existence itself, by saying it's not worthy of existing, so I don't recognize it. Well, what they're broadcasting into existence is for nature to impart to them the conditions that will weaken them, that will oppress them. Why? Because they cannot expand and advance and flow with all. So nature, evolution, has to bring them into a space of humility in order to once again reassess their rubric for how they see things. In other words, their judgments, that they are filtering their perceptions through their judgments, and their shame, and who's worthy and who's not. So when they're flowing their angelic resonance from within, and they're pouring out the life of manifestation of actuality, of how it should be in their circle of influence, measure for measure, they are resonating oppression. And so oppression is yielded. They hit walls. And it's a benevolent construct, because it's not the short path, it's a long path. They will end up, one life, two life, however long it takes, they will end up actualized in the highest love. Make no doubt about it. But because they are resonating oppressive resonances, nature is coordinating oppressive lessons to help break them, to break their ego, to break their resonance, for them to expand, reassess, enter a new rubric of perception. And then things flow again until it's not good enough anymore. They're still limited, and then they get humbled again. The point is, it's a very long evolutionary process to go from one resonance to the next resonance to the next resonance. It's called Jacob's Ladder. But it's a long, long, long process. Jacob's Ladder has 70 steps. Could take many lifetimes. There is something called the short path. It's the archetype of the tree of life. And all can enter it at any time. And when you enter into this resonance, you should take the shortcut. You take the short path. You don't have to climb up all the steps of Jacob's Ladder. You jump right to the top. Because from the tree of life, everything's in oneness. Why? Because it's connected, it's bridging to everything's source in eternity. And it's flowing the energies from the perspective of infinity. And from the perspective of infinity, there is no judgment. All are actualized in the highest love. It doesn't matter how long it takes. But compared to infinity, it's a blink of the eye. All are worthy. There is no space for judgment. And from that space, we see how glorious all the interplaying chords are in helping to actualize this drama for some to learn from within and others to learn from without, but to do so in complete freedom. And so it's glorious. And from that space, in seeing the oneness of all things and how we're interconnected and how there is no shame and no judgment and all are worthy, in that song, then we bring forth the music of eternity into our space to broadcast your song and the integrity of your song and truth intimately, to master your lessons through intimacy in all ways. You don't have time for oppression. You don't have time for struggle. You don't need. You don't want. You choose. What you choose to do is to broadcast the integrity of your song of truth through intimacy with all.